Hi, this is a video about the move e5, not so much about a specific opening, but I will take a look at the openings that I have encountered lately, because normally I play the move 1c5, but I have been looking at the move e5, and also after 1e4, 1e5. And so I've been looking at the Spanish for the most part, but the thing about the 1e5 is that you get it. I mean, for example, knight f3, we can play knight f6, we can play knight c6, we can play d6, we can play all kinds of stuff. But I think knight c6 is the most common move, and the most common move here is bishop e5, which will lead to a Spanish game. So a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castles, b5, bishop b3, bishop e7. And this is actually an opening that I've been looking at the most. Let's say something like d3. I prefer bishop bishop c5 here. a4, castles, knight c3, b4, knight d5. And you're getting the idea here. I mean, it's a very rich opening, and it's also very complicated. Well, like I said, I'm not talking so much about a specific opening. I'm just showing all kinds of moves and openings that can occur. Bishop e7 is probably the most common. Rook e1, b5, bishop e3, d6. c3, castles, h3. Knight a5, bishop c2, c5. You've seen this a billion times. There's nothing new about it. Okay, what else is there? Then there is two knights defense. Bishop c4, knight f6, and knight g5. And it looks like, well, white is actually winning the pawn on f7, but it's not quite that simple. So black plays d5, e takes d5. Let's say the Traxler move, Barry / Traxler, something like that, b5. And here, the most common move is bishop f1, but let's look at what happens if bishop takes b5. Well, queen takes d5, knight c3, queen takes g2, and black has won back his pawn. Because obviously it's not a very good idea to actually take over here. I mean, bishop takes c6. I mean, also let's say queen takes, and then just takes over here. He's giving up his bishop. So, for example, if takes, then just takes, and if castles, then this move. And I just think that black is much better here. Followed up by moves like bishop c5, castles. Okay, bishop c5, castles, long or short after h6, depending on how black plays. So, okay, queen takes d5, knight c3, queen takes g2, queen f3, takes, bishop d7. And again, it's not an option to take over here, because if takes, then how are you going to save this piece? So, for example, if king over here, then just pawn over there, and it gets messy this way. Well, that's basically the moves that happen after bishop takes b5, but then there is also d takes c6. Bishop b takes e4, queen e2, queen d5, f4, h6, knight f3, e4, knight e5, bishop e6, b3, bishop d6, bishop b2, e3. I just think that black has compensation for the last pawn. Or something like this. Okay, so that was the two knights defense, but like I said, the most common move is bishop f1 here. And let's take a very quick look at what happens after bishop f1. Knight e4, c3, knight takes e5, knight e4, queen h4, knight g3. Obviously threatening the knight on e4, so the knight has to move, and now bishop g4, and after f3 it looks like black has to lose either the knight or the bishop, but it turns out that Black doesn't care, so he plays e4. So c takes d4, bishop d6, giving up another piece. But of course, it is not possible for white to take the bishop because, well, then white gets checkmated. So let's say f takes g4, then this move, bishop takes g3, and h takes g3, and black doesn't care about the rook, so he takes the pawn with check, and then when the king goes to e2, then knight to f4, checkmate. So that doesn't work. So it is impossible to take, and instead white plays bishop b5 check, king d8, castles, e takes f3, rook takes f3, an exchange sacrifice. Black doesn't accept, so he plays rook b8, bishop f1, rook e8, knight c3, knight b4, etc., etc. So it looks kind of messy, and I think black definitely has compensation for the last piece, and white definitely has to fight hard to prove his advantage, being up a piece, that is. Okay, so that was the 2 knights defense. Very brief look, of course. But these are basically the 2 openings that I have been looking at, especially if we go back to bishop e5, a6, like I played before. Bishop a4, knight f6, castles, and here b5, followed up by bishop e3, bishop e7. And let's say white plays d3 or rook e1 or whatever. Let's say, like I showed d3 before, but let's take a look at c3. Then there's knight takes e4, d4, knight a5, bishop c2, e takes d4, knight takes d4, c5, knight f5, d5, knight d2, g6, knight g3, etc., etc. So that's also something I've been looking at. Very interesting. Well, you can also get the Scotch game, which begins, let's see, after knight f3, knight c6. You can immediately get d4, e takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop c5, and here, this is a nice idea of the bishop. Okay, black doesn't care about if knight takes c6, because then queen f6, threatening checkmate, so... And the idea is to win back this knight on the next move. For example, if queen d2, then just d takes c6. So black plays bishop c5 and bishop e3, queen f6 anyway. c3, knight g e7, bishop c4, knight e5, bishop e2, queen g6, threatening this pawn over here. So castles, d6, f3, and castles as well. But there's also bishop h3. Well, that's nothing terrible. Rook after rook f2. Sooner or later the bishop has to move anyway. So that's the Scotch game. Of course, it's much more complicated than this, but that's the basic idea. An immediate d4 here. So those are basically the openings that I've been seeing or encountering after the move e5. And like I probably said, I'm normally a c5 player after e4. I play c5. But then you get a Sicilian game and a completely different world of openings and so on. So, well, that's basically what I have to say about the move e5. Of course, there's much more. You also have the Petrov, something like this. I don't play the Petrov. It's not my style. I don't like it. So, and I've probably been playing c5 for the longest because I like the type of games, the open, very sharp games that usually happen after, like the Najdorf. That's probably my main defense. But that's another discussion. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video about the move e5 and a couple of openings that you might encounter on the board. See you soon.